Richard, why does it take 21 weeks from sale agreed to exchange of contracts? You being from ASAP, the sales progression outsourcing firm, you should know the answer to this. What are the 5 big reasons why that takes place? Talk to me.
There's a lot of reasons. I don't think we can disregard where we currently are or have been over the last 2 years. So I think COVID has significantly affected the legal capacity in the market, and that's clearly had an effect. I think once we got through the first lockdown, the market came back and rebounded and exploded in a way that nobody predicted, and it put everybody under pressure. But first and foremost, it put solicitors under massive pressure. All of them were working remotely, so they didn't have their cash rooms nearby, they didn't have their post rooms. A solicitor working from home makes them a lot more inefficient. So inefficiency over and above capacity has had a massive effect. They couldn't cope with the work that was coming in. Most of the solicitors that we work with, either directly or being on the other side of in terms of sales progression, I think did a good job. I think some solicitors let themselves down, but I don't think you can disregard the volume of work that we're having to get through, and it's had an effect.
What's the second reason?
There's lots of moving parts in a conveyancing transaction. You've got mortgages, you've got valuations, you've got surveys, you've got searches, you've got estate agents, you've got solicitors. It only takes one of those moving parts to slow down, and it slows the whole thing down. So, you know, it is a complicated process. Some people try to simplify it. I think it can be more simple, but those moving parts and the variables, certainly over the last 2 years, but frankly before that, because it was never efficient, can slow things down.
And what's your thoughts on regulation and red tape? Do you think that's made any difference?
Well, there's no doubt that, you know, conveyancing is heavily regulated. Solicitors far more so than estate agents. So I absolutely wouldn't disregard the impact of regulation and red tape on the process.
And what about solicitors? And, you know, they always seem to want to send letters to each other. Why don't they pick the phone up or send WhatsApp messages and like the rest of us?
I think it's probably tempting to go to the stereotypical solicitor, how people would view them 25 years ago. It still goes on, but certainly the solicitors we work with, be our own recommended solicitors or just solicitors we come across, I think the majority would now be sending emails and would encourage a dialogue. It is adversarial in nature, and solicitors don't often cooperate with each other. I wish they would.
I mean, a lot of people say solicitors are there to find problems and not trying to, you know, not acting in their entrepreneurial. Do you think that's the point?
Yeah, I mean, I think it might come down to how solicitors are trained. They are trained to bang heads, to pick apart arguments and defend arguments, and quite often not take responsibility. But we were speaking to one of our solicitors last week. There's plenty that the legal profession could and should do to make things a bit more straightforward. But, you know, certain solicitors will object to certain scenarios. If solicitors just work together a bit better, then that would help. But I know the Esters are bringing together, I think it's a panel of solicitors and estate agents. These sort of initiatives are really good because ultimately the property market, the property industry has got to work together more effectively.
And what's the fifth and final reason?
I think the chains that some agents put together. There's lots of challenges in this market at the moment, and one of those is stock. I think agents need to be creative with some of the open chains that they've got, maybe going back to buyers and saying, will you offer more? There's probably 25% of the housing stock locked up in chains at the moment, or open chains.
And what's an open chain for someone that might not know?
Well, a seller is looking to buy, but they haven't found anywhere, or a buyer loses their seller at the bottom.
It's quite a big number, isn't it?
It is, and I think it's probably 10% above where a normal market would be.
Thank you for your time today.
Cheers, Chris.